Okay, now that we've talked about polynomials and their degree and terms and all that sort of stuff, we're going to talk about adding polynomials. And so in chapter 1, we took time and we talked about combining like terms. Whoops. Combining like terms. And so combining like terms is what we do is we add or subtract the numbers in front, and that's also known as our coefficient for each like term. And how do we know if they're like terms? Well, they have to have the same variables raised to the same exponent. So x squareds and x squareds, x cubes and x cubes. But I can't combine x squareds with x cubes because they're not like term. Even though they both have x's, they don't have the same exponent to the x. So when we're looking at that, we're looking for like terms. So when I'm looking to simplify, I'm looking to combine my like terms. So my first problem, my first term, 5x squared, doesn't have another x squared to combine with. So I just leave it 5x squared. And then I could look at this negative 6 and this positive 8. Well, they're constants and they can combine. So negative 6 plus 8 gives me 2. Now the problem here is that when we're writing these, we need to write them in the proper form, which is descending order. So I need to skip these constants and go down to the negative 3x, because I go down by my x's. And I can put the negative 3x there because there is no other just x's together, so I can just bring that down. And then these two combine to become the positive 2. So I've combined my like terms, I wrote my polynomial in descending order, and that is our correct answer. So in our next one, we now have two different variables. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my t's. So this is a t squared minus 4t squared. So I'm combining those front numbers, which means that I need to remember that this front number is really 1. So 1t squared minus 4t squared is negative 3t squared. So again, the t's aren't changing, it's just those numbers in front that we're working with. And then we go to our s's. So 2s squared minus s squared, that's really a minus 1. So 2 minus 1 is 1. And I can write that as a 1s squared. Again, we don't have to write the 1. If you want, you can write this as negative 3t squared plus s squared. And you'll be fine. Okay, next one. We have m's and n's, so we have to figure out what's going to combine. So this one has an m squared and n. So I'd want to look. This does not have an m squared. This does have an m squared and just an n. So these are the ones I'm combining because the letters are exactly the same. So 10 minus 8 gives me 2. So this is 2m squared n. So when I'm adding and subtracting, those letters don't change. It's just the number in front. And then I bring down that plus 4 mn squared, and that's it. Nothing else I can do. That's our final answer. Now we're going to take it a little bit further, because what we're going to do now is we're going to combine polynomials. So we're going to add polynomials. It's not really any different than what we've done before, except for we separate out our polynomials. So this is a polynomial, and this is a polynomial by parentheses. And when we add them, what we're really going to do is just combine the like terms. And so I like to line up my like terms. So 2x squared lines up with 5x squared. 5x lines up with 4x. 2 lines up with 2, and that allows me to go ahead and combine my like terms. So now I have 7x squared. Again, when we add, we do not change the x's. 9x plus 3, and that's our final answer. So now we're going to move to the next one. We're going to do the same sort of thing. 7a to the third, so I'm going to move that under another a to the third, minus 10a. So I'm going to put that underneath the a. So you got a little tricky there because we didn't have an a squared. So we just move them under the correct parts, combine what we can. So this becomes, what, 12a squared, a to the third, sorry, plus 3a squared, minus 16a, and then plus 12. So that's our final answer. Now our next one's a little weird because I have what we call a binomial here, and I have a trinomial here. So I'm going to have one term that's not going to match up. So sometimes this is what I'll do. I'll go ahead and rewrite this 4m squared plus no m plus 5 to give myself a placeholder. So that way when I line up this one underneath it, I have a spot for everything. So this is a 1m squared, like writing the front coefficient so I add properly, minus 1m and plus 6. So now I'm ready to combine, and I have it in that proper descending order. So 5m squared minus 1m plus 11. And that's our final answer. So we've talked about combining like terms. We're now adding polynomials. We have one more step for today, and that is subtracting polynomials. Now we have to be really careful because it's not always going to be grouped where it's plus and on this one, so you just do all your pluses and then you do all your minuses so you know the rule. They're going to be back and forth, so you really have to pay attention to this symbol in between. And if I'm subtracting, then what I really do is I distribute a -1 to the second polynomial, because what I'm really doing is I'm subtracting everything in here. And I'm subtracting everything in here. And so what I'm really doing is distributing that minus, which is also a -1, inside. And so this really turns into looking like 2x squared minus 3x plus 1. And then I distribute that minus, so this turns into a plus. And this becomes a -1x squared, -1x, and a -1. And now it's just an addition problem where I line up my x squareds, my x's, and my constants, and I combine like terms. So this becomes 1x squared, -4x, and 0. So that's our final answer. So same idea. I like to, because I'm a little lazy, instead of rewriting it, I will go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to add a line here, and I'm going to change that to negative. I'm going to change this to positive, and then I line it up. So this is now a -7m to the 4th plus 2m squared, and then we combine. So this becomes -2m to the 4th minus 3m squared plus 8. And that's our final answer. So then on our next one, again, I'm going to go ahead and add a line, and I'm going to make this a negative. I'm going to make this a positive, and then we'll line it up underneath our proper like term. So -1x squared, positive 9, and then we combine our like terms. So -11x squared minus 3x plus 16. And then our last one, again, I have a binomial and binomial, but as I look ahead, I see that this has a term that this doesn't, and this has a term that that doesn't. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a little bit of time, especially if you're the type of person that is liable to make mistakes and not pay attention. It's a good idea to get in the habit of taking an extra step so you don't make a mistake. So now I'm going to add a line, and I'm going to distribute that negative inside. So now I have -1m squared plus 5m. Now everything lines up, and I can combine my like terms. So 8m squared plus 5m and minus 3. And that's it.